Cool, thanks so much. I mean, just a show of hands, who knows Pleo or has heard of Pleo? Okay, cool. So when Alexander reached out to me, I don't know if you guys have been following his 30 days of scale-up videos. I thought it was a super cool idea. And what I like also about Alexander is you're fairly progressive. You like to put stuff out there, and I think that's like the main rule when it comes to trying to kind of be a bit different. And what I've tried to do is structure this in 9 tips from a personal perspective. So it's not so much coming from Pleo, just to be transparent. And like I was speaking to just 2 people just then, I'm a big fan when you go and listen to people speak about something, that they give you really tangible things that the next day you can go away with and try it yourself. I think that's really important, because if it's useful to be like, that's cool, it works for you, it's more interesting when it can also potentially work for yourself. So what I've done is 9 sort of tips. The first 4 are kind of more individual, what you could do yourself. And if you're in a company, if you run a company, for example, it goes more into depth on how we use like a branch of everyone trying to do a similar thing to have much more of an echo effect in how that brand can drive revenue per se, but it's things like how brand and LinkedIn can drive an insane amount of people to apply to your company, which could be salespeople that want to work with you because it looks fun. It's referrals, like Alexander was saying, extremely important, and I'll show you some actual examples of how it works, which is interesting, at least from my perspective. And then something that I've kind of made up before this talk called long-range sales. So thinking way out in the future and not thinking about how you can convert someone right away to get them as a customer, but thinking like in 9 to 12 months, maybe we could work together. Really important. If you don't know who I am, I look after market launching now for Pleo. I've been there for 2.5 years. I joined as the first person to launch the UK, which was 2.5 years ago. A weird background. I'm Danish and Dutch, but I grew up in the Caribbean, believe it or not. And I cannot speak Danish and I cannot speak Dutch, but I carry both passports. It's kind of sinful, I know, but I'm really bad at picking up languages. And my background is in pharmaceuticals. So I have 2 degrees in pharmacology, and I don't even practice it anymore. So I, by serendipity, fell into the startup ecosystem when I was living in London when I finished my studies. But first tip, and this kind of goes against everything, but do not ever sell on LinkedIn unless you're using like InMail and going after someone very specifically. And it's because, in my opinion, you have to really put yourself into what people are actually on LinkedIn for. What are they looking for? And how do you want to leverage LinkedIn? I don't sell on LinkedIn ever. I use it as a branding platform only. And I'll explain how I do that. I actually saw this article a while ago and I screenshotted it on my phone because I thought it was super on point. If you read it, it says, you know, what do people go to LinkedIn for? And typically it's for these 3 things. They want to get better at their job. They want to learn something that will make them a bit sharper at their role. They want knowledge about their industry because they want to figure out who's interesting to speak with. And of course, people want to find new jobs. And that one's really important in terms of the mindset, in terms of how I think it's valuable to engage with people. But I also think it's the best right now branding platform, especially in business, because it's growing enormously and people really are shifting on it. And if you're here in Denmark, Danish people love LinkedIn, okay? Like super, super big thing. And here's my point, and here's something that I think you can do tomorrow. It's actionable. And this is my process on LinkedIn. I connect with every single person that likes my content. I don't care who they are. I will like them and I will connect with them. I'll send them a connection request. I also connect with almost everybody who views my profile organically if they've got an interesting profile. Which sounds annoying, like you don't want to just send out random connects to anyone, but there's a very important point behind it. If they're liking my content, viewing me, maybe there's something they're interested about. And on LinkedIn, you have connections and you have followers. So what you'll notice is if you look at your LinkedIn, there's a discrepancy between connections and followers. You can follow someone or you can connect and unfollow them, but you're still connected, but you won't see their updates. So it kind of gets annoying. and I have about a 20% gap. So people do unfollow me because they get annoyed or whatever, because it's not for everyone, but that's fine. They can go away, but it's the ones that are interested. But here's my strategy. As soon as I connect, I leave it for maybe 2 weeks, and then I send every single person a personal message. It's a copy and paste message, but it is kind of unique. It's got a bit more flavor, and it's true. So when I connect on my phone, it never allows you to send a note, which is really annoying, so I always forget. So I just push this, but notice the date timestamp. So this is back in 2018 with Brendan. Just 2 weeks ago, I sent him a message. Never spoken to him before, but he's been following me for almost a year. And I asked for help. So I'm actually launching Pleo into Ireland right now, and I said, hey, do you have a great network? And this guy is head of growth for Bird. Do you know the scooter company? He's in San Francisco now, and he's got the most insane network that I've ever seen. He came back to me really fast. He made 4 introductory emails to me, and now from those 4 emails, I've met the founder of Web Summit, if you guys know who that is, and it's insane. And that's just because he's been following my content, and it's a bit credible, because I didn't go out and just say, I'm connecting with you, I want to pitch my service. Extremely important strategy. And that's something that you could do tomorrow if you wanted to. Go through your LinkedIn, connect. People who don't want to connect back, they just won't accept. And you can kind of go from there. But make it kind of personal and don't engage right away for getting something back. Second thing, which I think is also important, is find your inspiration. There's a lot of different characters on LinkedIn. And there's many different ways to do it. But these 4 guys are so important to me because they've inspired a lot of the approaches that I use. And they're all creators in the creator kind of landscape. Marshmello, I don't know if you're into EDM, electronic dance music. He's really big DJ. And that's why I wear this hat, because I was inspired by him by wearing something which makes you look a bit different. Sounds stupid, but it's true. And he's so well known around the world because he wears that helmet all the time. Peter McKinnon next to him, really good filmographer. I really admire his way of capturing film and pictures, so I've tried to pull some of that into things that I like to do. Casey Neistat, bottom left, an amazing YouTuber. He's one of the reasons why I launched my own YouTube channel, just to try it out. I suck at it, but it's fine. It's more the creative process of learning how to stitch together something and how to story tell. I think that's super important, and it takes trial and error. And then Little Dicky the rapper, which is completely random, but I just love how he's so unique, and he's in an industry that's super like everyone's done it the same way. He's trying to do it very differently, and I respect that, and I think that's cool. And when you combine those 4 things, it gives you a bit of a unique edge, I guess. And I've tried to push all of this at least through some of my content, but it hopefully is quite consistent. And authenticity is insanely important. Don't break from that, because people can smell the bullshit. Like, they can smell when you're not being yourself. And I'm a big believer, and I'll get to the end, be like you are on LinkedIn in real life. There's a big discrepancy where people on an online perception, and in real life, they're very different, very dangerous. And it doesn't happen right away. This takes years to build. So you said you've been following me for like 2 years. In the beginning, it was rubbish. I had no idea. But it's like the consistency and don't give up. I think when I started, people were like, Hakon, stop doing this crap. I'm getting annoyed by your updates. But I pushed through, and I kind of think it works, and I'll show you the traction. I'm going to actually show you real data in terms of what this looks like on the inside. This is what you can do tomorrow. Super important. Fill out your profile, like the about section, make it super personal. No one does this, and I think it tells so much about your character, what kind of person you are. And I've put those 4 guys in my bio. Casey Neistat, Peter McKinnon, they're there with links to their YouTube channels. It sounds dumb, but people, you could be amazed how many people send me a message that have done their homework and looked through my profile. And I'm trying to make Pleo the best bit of plastic to come out of Denmark since Lego. I love that line. It's just really fun. And then the next thing, which is super simple to do, go and learn how to edit video. Video is big. You're doing this video thing. It's so simple. Go onto YouTube or Google. Just Google those words, how to do video edit on iMovie. And if you have an iMac, it's so easy. It's like a 5-minute tutorial, and you'll learn super fast, and iMovie is free. It's on your Mac. And that's so important because it allows you to be creative, and you can quickly push out content and use your iPhone to take a video and do something a bit different. That one is one, but you can do this tomorrow, and that's the tangible stuff. The Peacock Effect. And this goes back to the hat, and this is really important to stand out. You look on LinkedIn and everyone looks the same. You see this and it's like, okay, well, I don't know what's unique about this person. And this is where it's a bit individual to find what you're super interested in, like as yourself. But people look the same, but it's important from a visual brand perspective because, believe it or not, which I think is funny, I'll walk around Copenhagen and people will stop me and they'll be going, you're the LinkedIn guy, which I think is weird, but it's funny. But it's like, it comes back to one of the later slides, which is reach. Reach of your content is fascinating when it gets to like second and third degree connections, but I'll come back to that in a second. So try to, tomorrow or whenever, try to figure out what could be a bit different about you. It doesn't have to be a hat, by the way. And I just randomly did a search, like Rob Dance. I have no idea who he is, but he wears a cool shirt, right? And it's unique. It looks different, and it represents his brand. So, and then the guys from Mina, I love them. I think they're super cool too. They have hats. As you can tell, I like hats. But it's different, and people will recognize it. And you need to try and figure out, and this one's a bit more difficult as a tangible thing to go away and do. What could you maybe do? It might be a certain style of shirt that you wear. It might be a certain hairstyle. I have no idea, but it is important for recognition, for you to kind of get recognized and people to kind of reference you when they're having conversations. This is a personal pet peeve of mine, and it's a bit controversial, I guess. I'm not the biggest fan of people who go out there and self-proclaim that they're an expert on LinkedIn. I think a lot of people do try to do it for winning new business and whatever, and some people are good at it. But I'm a personal believer that if you're really interesting and good, your network will do it for you. And then it's so much more weight when people like reach out to you that someone's recommended you, or as people like meet you, they take a selfie and then they post about you, because it's like sort of self-reflective and people can see it's like social, like, okay, this person actually might know what they're talking about because other people are recognizing it. And that guy over there is Tish. He's an insane guy that I've followed for like a year. We finally met in London 2 weeks ago. He's like the most insane guy on LinkedIn. He just comments on everything, but he's super knowledgeable. But it's stuff like this, and that's the thing I would really push to think about. But the question is, how do you do it, right? How do you get a reputation, and how do you do that? And this is also not the best slide if I'm blunt, because it kind of contradicts a little bit. But start writing things, start sharing your views, but mention that it's your view and that you're not kind of stating that it's the right or the wrong way to do things. And comment on people. Like, a lot of people just don't do anything on LinkedIn. Like, I have LinkedIn Navigator open almost all day, and if I see something interesting that just pops up, and if I can add value instantly, like I know if they're looking for someone, I know people in the industry, I'll drop them in. And it's easy, but it does take a lot of work, and it is kind of a focus. But that's one that you could do tomorrow if you just kind of pay attention to it. And there's not a slide after this, but this is what I kind of mentioned just now. Who you are online should be an extension of who you are in real life. So if any of you have met me before, you know, most people when they say, I'm kind of an intense guy, and the way I act on LinkedIn is very transparent to how I am in real life. And I really believe in that, and if you do that well, the authenticity comes through very well as well. So that's something just to think about. Now the fun stuff. So now we're moving away from things that you can do individually to things that you can think about to do with other people. I made this up, like using LinkedIn like Instagram, and I really believe this is true in terms of how people use LinkedIn right now. And this is like real stuff to show you. So I'm a big believer in B2B, trying to make people think and see your company as more human. So if you can make your brand feel like a B2C and you're approachable because you have so many faces to approach, it works. And like Pim is an old friend of mine, hadn't spoken to him for years. Randomly out of the blue, he sends me that message. Hey, my finance team is looking for cards. I see your posts all the time. Maybe it's good to introduce you. And that's the whole point of being consistent and always being online and posting relevant stuff, because when people are ready, they'll come to you. Honestly, it does work. We just got listed on the FinTech 50. It's kind of a prestigious award with Mina. I know the founder. Her name is Julie. We've been connected for a year, and then she randomly sent me that like 4 weeks ago because they were considering us for the list. Again, maybe not directly connected, but I'm sure it helped with getting us the awareness to get on that list. And then Crowdcube, which is a crowdfunding platform, they just send me these random things like, hey, we've been connected, introduce me to your guys at Pleo, and then I use a lot of GIFs, by the way, on LinkedIn. Don't underestimate the GIFs, they're great. And it's just, this is like a cycle. When you connect with these people, like go back to tip number 1, connect all the time, add value, and don't ask. People will come to you when they're ready. But remember, I think I'm also in a privileged position with Pleo. It's quite like a viral product. It solves a huge pain, so the company also helps. That's behind you. What you can do tomorrow, start posting stuff. Like, it's so easy just to start, and that's where the video editing becomes useful. But look at the traction. 22,000 views. I've got 7,000 connections on LinkedIn. So it's super quick. It can go viral. So I consider a post viral after 20,000 views. And it took me less than 3 seconds to make this. Like, I just took my camera out. It was the team at Sales Huddle. They were doing a thing. And then the more likes it gets, the further it goes. I'm a big fan of the guys at Luggage Hero. I know Thomas. I used to work with him. They've done an amazing job at becoming a bit more human, I think. So I'm a big fan of them. And then there's a recruiter that I know on the right-hand side. They post constantly. It's kind of in the moment, and it kind of has values that are interesting about the industry. So there's a balance. But just get your iPhone out and just start shooting. Because if you do a bad post, and I've done many bad posts, in 2 days, people forget about it. It's okay, move on. Next one. Like, seriously, don't be too afraid. Focus on reach. This one's really important, and consistency. And now look at the reach on these posts. So reach for me is so important because it goes to the second and third networks, which is how you then get back to tip 1, people looking at your profile, people liking your content. But, 17,000 views, 22,000 views, 10,000 views, 13,000 views. It's like, it's consistent, and it's the eyeballs. It's lots of eyeballs on you and the brand. And then over time, it just becomes like a constant top-of-mind feed. And that's where the guys like Pim, hey, I keep seeing your posts. And that's fun. And that's without ever actually aggressively selling to anyone or pitching. Like I said, people will come to you if you're posting good content, in my honest opinion. And that's that was from yesterday. This is my view counter on LinkedIn. So, I mean, somewhere between, like, on the lows, it's around 120 views per week. On the highs, it goes up to 360 profile views a week. I don't know if that's a good number, but that's what I get because I like to show the numbers. But it varies, and the peaks are linked to strong posts. So whenever I do a big post, it automatically does a peak. So it's kind of interesting to try and be consistent. So I'm not going to do the points. I'm just going to kind of go over them now. So I wrote an article or two on employee power branding, and this is when the whole company begins to get behind the notion that, hey, let's get on LinkedIn, let's start sharing stuff, but being allowed to do it individually. So Lena, you can write your own thing, but we've made some content for you. Jeppe, our CEO, but everyone begins to post, and it causes like a wave. And it's the same type of post, but different versions. And that's where people can build their own personal take and brand. And people really, honestly, if you guys are in sales, people buy from people. Like, they really kind of attract to that. But it allows, like, if you do these posts from a company page, like if you have your own LinkedIn company page, 0 traction. No one ever responds to those. So when a company, in my opinion, can get behind their staff and push the message through them, and the staff want to do it, it's very powerful from like a viral effect. And then you were mentioning like the ice cream thing and like giving customers a great experience. This one is insanely powerful. In the beginning, when we started flying to London, when I launched the UK, for example, we just started taking pictures with our customers randomly. I don't even remember how it started, but we just started doing it, and it became a thing. We would never tag them individually, but we began to post it. And then, that middle one, those are VCs, very serious people. They invest millions of dollars into companies, but they love having fun. And when you get into a habit of doing this, people would when we would go to visit them, and they would request the pictures. So it was a fun thing that becomes known. And if you can master that, it's really fun just to play around with customers, because business is serious and people are human and they like to have a bit of fun on the side after you do an important meeting, of course. And then people begin to shout you out on LinkedIn without you asking for them, which is kind of cool. But it's only awkward if you make it awkward. Just take your phone out and do it. If they call you out on it, then just keep doing it and see what happens. Seriously, no one really calls it out. It's very rare. Yeah.
Have you been into trouble with like posting pictures and someone said like I don't want to?
It's only happened to me once. So it's only happened to me once where someone said don't post that. And once out of several thousands, it's okay for me as a statistic, but it's a good question. But again, I just never made it awkward. This is normal, and this is how we do it. But
Another question maybe, I mean, like would you then like say for, hey, let's smile for LinkedIn, something like this? Because then everyone knows that it's for, or...
So in the beginning, I never said that, but I think everyone started to see that we did post it, so then they didn't mind. But I never spoke about it. But for like legal reasons now, maybe you have to be a bit careful. But I mean, like, dude, just do it. Like, break the rules until you get caught, and like you won't get into that much trouble, in my opinion. But that's the startup hustle. You need to try to be a bit weird, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it backfires. Like it said, it happened to me once. But there's another question.
Yes, but I was going to go back to when you were saying about the consistency part.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to build your identity brand? For example, those names, etc. Did you think
Long time.
about it a lot, and then you started, or did you learn on the go?
On the go.
On the go.
And it's just like, if you're an entrepreneur or you're like a tough salesperson, sales is tough. It's just being consistent and pushing through the barriers, because you get a lot of negative. Like in the beginning, I got a lot of bad messages. Like I should try and find them. People would send me like hate mail. Like, what are you doing? Get off LinkedIn. It's not used like Facebook. All kinds of crap like that. But I didn't. It was maybe 30%. And in my mind, I was thinking 30% means it's a good thing, because if no one was saying it was bad, I'm not having an impact. And that was my feeling towards it. And I just kept going. But after time, when you get the video editing down pat and you get into a rhythm, it becomes really easy to post. You don't think about it. You'll be in a situation and you'll see something happening and you'll just film it, or you'll get it and then you'll post it. And then I always post and forget. I never look back at it. I just go for it. Unless someone tells me to take it down, and I take it down. It's happened to me 3 times. And then that was the last slide actually. And the last thing, I think I'm on time. The last thing I wanted to say was, this is a shameless plug. Next Wednesday, our friends Antler, which is like an entrepreneur VC firm, they help people like launch companies, and they find founders, they pull them together, they invest in them and help them kind of launch a business. I don't know what the audience is here, or if anyone's ever been interested in trying to launch their own thing. I thought it was relevant though, because they also attract salespeople. It's not just techie people that want to like launch like a CTO thing. They also like business people. But we're doing like a thing together breakfast on Wednesday, and there's a few more slots left. They asked me just to see if anyone was interested. It's just a breakfast at 7:30, but if you find it online, there are some slots if you want to see what that's all about. I think that's it. Yeah, but that was cool. I hope it was useful. Any questions, or do you want to save them until the end? Shoot.
This LinkedIn identity still over into your Facebook and all these things, or?
No, I've kept it very LinkedIn. I actually changed my names on Facebook, so not for any specific privacy reasons, but I've done a lot of focus on LinkedIn because it's like the business platform. I would love to see. I'm sure you can do it on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that, but that's worked really well for me, if that's useful to share. But it is a business platform, but it is changing. Like I said, it's like Instagram, because people flick through, and if you post constantly, people love to follow the journey. It's exciting when you can see, okay, you guys are going to London, you guys are going to Sweden, and they don't need to like wait for a newsletter. They constantly will just flick past it. They won't necessarily engage, but it's like, okay, I saw a post the other day. And then when they're ready, if they want something, then they'll reach out to you. And then it's more natural. That's why I'm a big believer in like getting the followers. The ones who don't like you will just disconnect, in my honest opinion.
Thank you for the presentation.
Cool.
What is in your opinion, the best thing to do? Like being very consistent in posting every day, or posting some really high quality, long form thing every week or 2 weeks?
I think in the beginning, it's really hard. It's really hard to let go of the judgment, because, oh my God, people aren't going to like it, or they're going to think that I'm weird, or And then also in the beginning, you get no likes, like you'll get no engagement. It'll be, you'll feel like you're investing time in making a video and doing a cool post that you think is awesome, and it gets like 10 likes and gets like 50 views. I don't know. It's just, it is, I would say try to do at least a post once a week to begin with, get into the habit, and then you'll have weeks when you're super busy and you can post a lot of interesting stuff, but then you'll have weeks when there's nothing happening. Don't just post for the sake of it, because that will also not be authentic. Like, people will see that you're just getting into a habit. I also do not use scheduling tools that kind of post for you. All my posts I do manually, which is not super scalable, but I don't post that much. Jeppe, for example, he does like a mega post once like a month, and he gets like 30,000 views and like 400 likes, and that's his style, and everyone can be a bit unique. But the reason why I wanted to share this perspective is more from if you guys are salespeople and you want to get out there. Like, every single meeting that we do with a prospect, I connect on LinkedIn right away. Like, it just comes. Like, even if they don't become a client, they're still there. And then it's just consistent. And then it grows that network super slowly, and that escalates the reach. And then they, like, people like, yeah, I heard about you from this other person, and that's a nice referral process. We okay for time?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, just on top of that, do you ever do articles? I mean, as a post, because that's, if you want to do like a major post, maybe I've heard that that's an idea if you want it to kind of last longer, or you know, have a longer tail effect. I don't know.
I think I've written articles like the employee power branding. It takes a lot of time. Yeah. It's a lot of work. But what's nice about that, you post them onto your profile so they stay there. Yeah. So that people, when they come for like credibility, they can find if you've written about it. So I think it is valuable, but and I'm really bad at writing. I'm dyslexic, so I really have a hard time, which is why I love video, because it's easier to do. But I would honestly invest as hard as you could into articles if you have a very interesting perspective to share. And that's how you get the credibility slowly over time. But again, don't expect like tons of likes, tons of views. It doesn't happen that way. Not until you get to like these influencer levels where there's influencer marketing, for example, I find fascinating, and I find like it's crazy how that works. I don't think it's the same on LinkedIn, but I think there are like elements that you can pull from kind of doing how they do it, but it needs to be authentic. I think that's the hardest part to master. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I had a conversation earlier with two employees about, like, I'm working as Skater, about recruiting people. And I was wondering, since like you were talking about branding yourself on like with your picture as well, and Rob Bands, let's take him for example.
Sure.
Because I found another profile. She was wearing a football shirt. OB, if anyone knows, but we can use Manchester United. It's more more out there. But let's say, why should I? Because like what I gather from it, that you need to look professional in your picture. But why should I contact you if you were wearing a Manchester United shirt? How does that seem professional?
Sure, but for me it's like, and again, it's my perspective, so it might not be right on a macro level, but it works for the situation. Your profile picture is their personality, and I love that. Sometimes I see on someone, I can just tell that person's personality, and I like people who like project that directly, and I think people from a B2B perspective, right? So I'm very B2B. When you are looking at a buyer and like someone's reached out to you, when you can go to LinkedIn and you can see. And the other reason for the hat is also ridiculous. I went into a meeting in London with a massive company. The CEO, CFO, and CMO were in the room, and I walk in with this hat on, and I remember their faces. They were like, who's this Max Verstappen Formula 1 driver walking in? It was so funny, but I could see they were just like, what the hell's going on here? Because they were expecting to talk about finances, like, you know, the ledger, the accounting software. And then we sat down, and then we started talking. And then when we started talking, they were like, oh shit, like this person knows what finance kind of is. You can talk about the nominal structure, and you can see the mood swing, because like first perceptions are so important. But then I promise you, they never forgot me from that meeting, right? So I walked out, but they're like, I remember that weird guy with the hat. Normally, it's not a negative impression, but if you can, like I said, if you're like on LinkedIn, authentic, and in real life, the same personality, it's much more of an impact, because they get it. That's how I get it. And then people begin to hustle for you. And then recruitment, really important one. By being so loud on LinkedIn all the time, I can't show you them, but I get so many people reaching out for jobs. So we have driven so much inbound recruitment and passive recruitment, because these are good people in like really cool companies that are great at their job. They don't need a job. So they're not even on the market, right? So you're never going to find these people, but they're like super senior, and they're like, I've been following your stuff. Seems like a really cool company. What's coming up in the future? I might be interested. And that's extremely powerful. And I'm not to be self-promoting, but I'm confident we have 175 people now in Pleo. I would say almost 20 of them have come through somehow through my network, which is pretty cool. And that's just organic. So very powerful for internal recruitment. Okay.
Need to shut it down now.
Yeah.